I'm Richard. I'm talking to Patrick Sinclair, and you've been going through the GeoGebra course, and I was particularly interested in Patrick because you're the first person. Because as you know, I've made a judgment call a year or so ago to stick with version 5 rather than version 6 in GeoGebra because it's just less problematic. And we'll wait and see what happens when I get to version 7. But you're the first person that's actually created a lot of your files in both, and you're also using the online aspect. So I think you've got a really good perspective on the different options within GeoGebra as well. But I'm also interested in the way you use OneNote to deliver your lessons and GeoGebra and blah, blah, blah. So you can just talk us through how you do that.
Yeah, so I'll show you just two things. Just quickly, my OneNote here has a lot of different things in it, and a lot of it sort of has individual students in there. The ones that have got numbers on them are specific for classes. So each of the students in each of these classes that I teach have access to just this notebook. So I send them a link and they have access to only the one that they're able to look at. For all of my younger classes, they only get to look at it. For my year 11s, I've got one that they can contribute to as well. And they all understand that, that's a school-based thing, and anything they contribute there has to be appropriate. And that's actually never been a problem. The kids understand that, and they're really responsible with it. So within that, if I just go into my year 11s here, I'm just showing you one from trigonometry, particularly because I had a student, a non-English speaking background student, who was really struggling with understanding 3D trig questions, just struggling to perceive what was going on. And having started the course, I jumped into GeoGebra Online and made this little thing. Now I'll show you it here. I was able to drop it in. OneNote allows you, so this is the Windows 10 version of OneNote, allows you to drop in GeoGebra applets as an online video. So you kind of got to go up and insert an online video and send your link into there.
So Patrick, so you're saying you created this in GeoGebra 5, uploaded it to online? Is that what you're saying? And then because it's online, it's got a URL, and they can drop the URL on the online video. That's right. Yep.
Yeah. And so this then is there for any of my students to access this. What I didn't discover when I learned this, and so they can look at this and they can move a point around, and it was simply a matter of being able to have a student actually visualize what's going on. However, they can also click on the link at the top and go out. I think I've already got it open here somewhere, because in the online version, that app tends to work a little bit better than it does in OneNote itself. Yeah, I'm still logged in. Where's my resources? So within my resources, now I created this one in front of the student in, a minute and a half, literally sort of put a point here, put a point there, do a segment, and then just threw it up so that I could stick it in the OneNote basically while we were talking. In this version then I'm able to change the plane as well. Rotate it around. And so I find, just in terms of the ease of spreading stuff out and giving it to students where they can access it, this is a good medium. It's something where it's easy for them to share with other people as well. They can discuss, they can talk about it.
When you said this is a good medium, you're talking about the combination
of online version of GeoGebra I found to be really good for sharing.
So if someone didn't want to go down the OneNote path because it's like, that seems like, well, it's not where I'm at, it's not what I'm using, I don't want to spend the time. If they've got the URLs, they could have any other form, whether they're even emailing kids, or they could have a Google Doc with just the links and explaining.
Oh, absolutely, and I do the same all the time. Anything that I kind of want everyone to get hold of, I both put into OneNote and I email it to the students as well. And that's partly that the OneNote is accessible to all of my students, and the link to my OneNotes is all in our school learning management system. So parents can see all that kind of stuff there. But But when it's all in there, it's tied up and they can't share it with someone else. They can't talk to their mate at the school down the road and say, oh, look, I understand it this way. So I don't know, I like sharing. So I throw it in that way. Um,
Now, can I, unless you've got something else you want to show, can I just ask the question? I know what the answer's going to be. You're talking about using the GeoGebra Online. Why would you make it in GeoGebra 5 and then upload it? Why wouldn't you just go straight to the online version and make it?
it's clunky. The online works. It's just not as easy. It's not as quick. Creating a file in the computer versions, either 5 or 6, is miles easier. The online is really good for sharing. It's also a fantastic resource base. The number of things, and I was actually going to show you one of just someone else's that where I don't have to do the work myself. Go and pinch someone else's shared work, which is part of my whole sharing philosophy. If I share, then I can pinch other people's as well. All right, that's the so I sort of had a Year 9 class doing surface area, and then I stuck at the side here a couple of little things. One that's mine that you'll recognise
Yeah.
from the stuff we were doing, and one written by a bloke whose name is Andrew Orr and has got some very solid mathematics behind him. This thing, when it loads up, apologies, I am running on wireless NBN. This is really quite
Yeah.
pretty. And that sits there inside my OneNote. I can move the thing around, I can talk about it, I can take screenshots from it and then throw it out here, which is exactly what I did in the space of a lesson. And I can put multiple things there. I can have it all set up so that the kids can both discuss and play without. So even a kid who is on their iPad and hasn't been able to get into using a decent version of GeoGebra can still access the OneNote link online.
Yeah.
It just comes up for them as a website. And then sitting inside that is my GeoGebra apps or other ones that I've borrowed from other willing people to be able to play with. And so that's the strength of the online stuff. The stuff that's in the GeoGebra Online is the fact that it's so easy to look up other people's resources, finding heaps of stuff. It's really very good for that. But then the other thing's the classes.
Right, we'll get to that in a sec. Can I just say something which I think is valuable to any teacher who's not proficient with GeoGebra, who's just dabbled with it, they use it, but they're not very confident with it, and they basically find stuff online. And this is also a pitch for, or like a rationale for doing the GeoGebra course that you're in and that I run. So I'd say my take and my messaging is that finding files online like this is awesome, and you can find a heap of them, but to be able to also create something that's a little bit more tricky, or I'd say profound, because it could be a complicated file or it could be a simple file, but it's something that's going to express the way you teach or fit in 100% with the way you teach. To be able to do that yourself, as well as find some files online that think, oh, I could use that in this unit and I could use that in that unit. To be able to be empowered to create exactly something that fits in with the way you teach is a paradigm shift from not being able to do that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And examples like that thing with the student that just wasn't understanding the questions because of language barriers, really, and being able to throw something up really quickly 3D in GeoGebra and just have the kid look at it and go, oh, and there's the moment where they understand what's going on and off they go with the question. That's really powerful, especially when you're drawing it right in front of them and creating it right in front of them, and they actually get to see what's happening.
I have the joy of watching these files come through submitted in the course by, not everyone does this, but there's a percentage of participants where the neurons obviously fire and there's this creative outburst where these mathematics types create these really clever files, and some of them are complicated, some of them are very simple, but it's like I would never have thought of doing that. And some of the files I honestly have no idea how they're created, and I'm quite happy about that I've created a situation that someone can then run with and go way beyond where I'm at. But I love seeing the stuff that comes through, and then obviously everyone else can see those. So yeah, and you're in that mix as well.
I think I'm sort of in some areas sort of trying to find some depth beyond what's in the course. And the resources, once you know the basics, the resources that are out there in terms of scripting, in terms of programming, that you can lift up and drop into your own applications is it's really easily accessible. You've sort of type in the word GeoGebra, type in what you're hoping to be able to do, and someone's already done it and explained it and got it sitting there, and you can put together exactly what you want for your students. It's great.
But you need to get to a certain level to be able to maximise the advantage of that.
Yeah, and that's why I looked at the course. I mean, I'd seen the online stuff previous to that and had played with it online and thought, oh, this is just too hard. And saw the course and thought, well, actually, no, I'm going to learn how to do this properly, and it's been really good.
Awesome. Now, one of the things you mentioned in the course was your use of what GeoGebra calls classes, and then you said you would actually call it something else, but and that you've learnt some more about that. So, could you just talk to that?
Yeah, so I'll jump back out. So we're within my online GeoGebra account here, which I have actually linked to my Classic 5 account. So basically anything I make in Classic 5, I can just hit the export button and it goes straight into my GeoGebra Online. There's no effort whatsoever in doing that.
And and
So when I go
and
into
so
my,
and so the key there is when you've got you've got Classic 5, you create a Classic 5 account and then link that to your GeoGebra account.
yes, so within stuff, here's one I've been working on just in the last little while. Within that, you can see up in the corner here, it
Yep.
says signed in as Patrick Sinclair because at some stage I went to hit the share button and it says, oh, you've not linked an account. So I went and linked my online account and up it went straight away. It was dead easy. So in the online version, if I just go back out of there, in my resources, so if I hit my stuff here, um, in the middle of all of the lockdown stuff and other fun things going on with COVID, I also ended up on jury duty. Jury duty in lockdown is an interesting thing.
Whoa.
And had to try and find a way of continuing to keep my classes moving. And so one of the things I tried was putting together something for my year 10s who at the time were working on nonlinear equations. And so this is all hit in the middle of me doing this course. And so I created this class
Yep.
and set up links there. And I created, once again, task created in Classic 5, imported in, and then added to a class. And so what I did was I made up a single actual little applet in Classic 5 and then asked the kids to play with it. And so as I've actually done that, I can see what every single kid has left it with when they finished playing. I could have set them, get to this point, and so I can see that this student's got to here. But then after that, well, the thing I actually really liked about this was that I was able to add extra questions to the task. And so in the following questions, I've said, what's the effect on the graph of changing the A value? And so these are individual student responses. So I was able to literally in my breaks between court hearing sessions look at student responses to the task and see what they were doing. And so this is individual students and what they said, which meant that I was then able to send back some feedback to the students saying, hey, this is really good. Ellie and Will, can you please tell everyone what you thought about question 2? Because they had really good answers to that one, that kind of thing. And then, gave them another question and, multiple choice so I could see their responses for the 2 different things here. If I've forgotten which one I'd set up as the correct answer, I can do that. So this is just a little multiple choice activity. And once again, in here, another question, going back to the factorized form, I gave them some instructions, so they had to go back to their applet and play around with it and try and understand what was going on. And, ask them, so this was in a factorized form of a cubic, A outside of x minus b, another bracket, x minus c, another bracket, x minus d, and ask them to explain what's going on with b, c, and d as they start playing with those values, and what actually happens to the graph. And, these are kids responding to that and trying to figure out what all of that means.
What did the students say to you when you got back to school when you saw them next face to face? What about their experience with this?
They actually enjoyed it. They said it was fun, and one of the requests was that we do more of, and we're in the middle of a non-linear topic at the time. Can we go back over some of the parabola work we'd done previously and do some things like that with this? So we actually spent a couple lessons at the end with, conveniently, some of the things that I'd made for the course anyway.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
And just gave them to the students, and so when I actually submit my evidence of use in class, one of the things you will see is photos of the back of kids' heads and their computer screens all playing with I think this cubic one and with the parabolas.
Wouldn't have you loved to have been taught like this when you were at school?
Oh, 100%.
Isn't it? It's chalk and cheese, isn't it?
The dynamic aspect of being able to play with it and manipulate it yourself, and then like we were doing stuff with just transformations, just substituting x minus a for x and moving something around, and the kids just being able to, it's that aha moment. The kids go,
yeah.
Oh, I get this. And then to,
which is the whole point of teaching.
But then that question of why does it go the wrong way? You say, what do you mean the wrong way? So, well, when I have x minus 3, it's going to the right. I don't get that. And so then to be able to sit down and go through the algebra and have a second aha moment there of why that's happening is really great.
So can I ask you, and for the people out there, I don't know what your answer is going to be, but I don't know if you've used Desmos. Do you use Desmos?
Yeah, I use that as well.
Right. So I think, I have strong reason to believe, a lot of teachers from the outside who dabble with Desmos and dabble with GeoGebra, they're thinking, well, I don't really need GeoGebra because I love Desmos. Desmos is easier anyway and blah, blah, blah. Whereas my take is Desmos is awesome, but once you get your head under the hood of GeoGebra, it's a whole nother level on in terms of what you can do with it. And they're not really to be compared. They are complementary. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I find Desmos really good when I'm standing there in class in front of the kids, talking to them and saying, okay, now do this and now do that. If I want to set something up for kids to run off with by themselves and play with, I want to be able to set some instructions, put some guidelines in place, and the ability to kind of, as you've called them, construct files and things like that, the ability to put instructions in, to have the dynamic text. And I find that even though Desmos is easier, particularly for graphing, to set up something immediately, and it's quicker and it's easier for setting up something immediately, in terms of setting up a task and getting kids to play with something. For instance, if you're doing investigation tasks for your year 11 and 12 functions topic, in the past I would have absolutely been saying, now go on to Desmos and play with this and that. There's no way I'd do that again for an assessment investigation task. I would be saying, now download this file and have a look at this in GeoGebra. It's a bit more sophisticated and allows you to not so much control, but get a greater depth into what you're doing, I think.
And the files that I've seen that really blow my mind of people like yourself and other creatives that they really get their hands dirty with it. I don't think you can produce that level of sophistication that with the checkboxes and it's hard to describe a file, but when you go, wow, that is incredible. I don't think you can't do that sort of stuff in Desmos.
Not as easily, no. Well, and certainly not the that checkbox type of thing where you can change between this function and that function. You can do it in Desmos, but not in the same way, and not with the same ease. I like this. I think it's a really good piece of software.
So you've really explained a few things that I think are really vital to see shared, which is the use of OneNote, how you are using the online GeoGebra, which means from your classic either version 5 or 6. I don't want to go into the differences between those. There's another video for that. And then up to online, and then you've got your URL, and you can use it in OneNote or wherever you like.
And it's really easy.
Yeah,
it's not something to be intimidated by. It's so easy.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Stay on the line, but I'll turn off the video. Cheers.
Thank you.